Alright, so once your application grows, and as I've said in previous videos, the beauty of doing work is that eventually you're going to be able to reuse the work you did before for new operations. Yesterday I showed off the upload mechanics, but I didn't really complete them yet, and I had some doubts about what to do, but today I decided, you know what, I'm just going to finish it, so I added a delete to upload a successful drag and dropping operation, and all of this. You can even view it here, go back. So now it's time to use this momentum and immediately apply it to another domain model, which is very important. So when I'm on my front page here, you can see that I'm really featuring all of these assets here, these sound packs. That's what I want. And in order to complete this area, what I can see is that what I really need is I need images, and I need to be able to actually get a particular asset. So what does that mean for the progress on actually completing a basic functional website? I need to be able to create assets as well. So now I have a way to store files, and I have a way to reference them. So now I move on to assets. Now, because I already went through the complexity of adding all of the uploads and the CRUD operations related to it, I can copy paste those and have them work the same for the assets, which is what I did here. Now I'm not going to show it because one of the two pages I did not implement yet is the actual form for it, and that's it. But in terms of like the code itself, everything already works. So we can go here into asset servers, and as long as I didn't make any issues with copy pasting, it is basically a word for word copy of the upload service. So you can see here that for the most part it's almost exactly the same, because I already have this basic idea of what I want to do with the CRUD operations. There are some things I want to change. For instance, I want to have a cursor for the listing and a search bar, but I can implement that later. And also, as your project grows, you are going to need to spend less time on doing the same operation over and over, like creating CRUDs, and you're going to have to spend more time on organizing your code, because what you can see here in the CLI area, if I can pull it up, in the CLI area, is that we have a whole set of commands here for the accounts. Right, and then we have a whole set of commands here for the uploads. And so you might think to yourself, well, I would just copy paste the uploads commands and add it for the assets, and that's really it, right? It works fine until you add like 4 or 5 more domain models or particular operations you want to add. But if your goal is simply to be able to call specific functions using your CLI, like for instance, create account, mark account as verified, remove role from account, add role to account, you can see that these have signatures. And so what you could do, if you happen to know from it, is think of the time you made a Discord bot, and what the Discord bot allowed you to do is to define commands, like they allowed you to define a signature, and you would specify that this was a Discord command, right? This was like a command, and then you created these tiny little small pieces of code that would convert a particular string into any particular object. Now, how is that relevant? Well, right now, I can just give these an attribute called command and load them into the CLI, which will save me a lot of hassle setting up the account service. But if we, for instance, go into the upload service, we can see that one of the objects it requires is a string. Now, for the CLI purposes, the only way to convert a string into a stream is either the string literal as a text stream, but what's more likely is you're going to give it a path. So you could set up little things here like path or whatever. And once you've done that, you can go in here and using reflection, take out all of this here. Right? You would be able to remove all of this, load it in through reflection, because you've added things like a command attribute and a description attribute, and you did the same for instance, this one here. You have now saved yourself the time in the future when you're trying to make the CLI. All you have to do is create a little attribute documentation for what you're trying to do, and you can even remove and add commands as you wish. As a matter of fact, you could create the commands much easier than having to do this, you know, setting up the commands, setting up the options, and all of that. So The point is that as your project grows, you can reuse a lot of elements for a different purpose. For instance, now for the asset service, it's basically the same as the upload service without the uploading part. But you're going to see that a lot of things you are repeating, and so now you're going to spend time making the code more maintainable, but also centralizing particular logics and making particular logics easier to implement. Right? Before they were raw drafts, and now you're really thinking about structuring your code base and how to make it more intelligent. And it's not just a CLI that grows. Almost every aspect of your application will grow, and you're going to start to notice where all of the maintenance is going to end up on. For instance, take the CRUD form here. Well, CRUD is a lot of repeating, right? I'm repeating the text boxes, I'm repeating the input fields, and I already know I want a particular file, I know I want an email, and I know that how to render that particular input field. So if you automate this process, you might think that you create a solution in Blazor or some other way to render this form for you, which is called like UI generation or whatever you want to call it, form generation, which is really worth it to speed up the creation of these pages, but the process of making such a generation system can take up a lot of time. So make sure the feature of form generation outweighs the problems you're currently facing. Otherwise, you're spending too much time in different areas, and you might as well copy paste until one day you decide to overhaul it.